Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien ships through the main screen of his vessel. The ESS Liberty floated in space near Earth, and outside the big windows he could see 12 different types of alien spacecraft. They had come from all over the galaxy to deliver a message to humanity. Each ship looked different because they came from different worlds and different species. Some ships were long and thin like metal snakes. Others were round like giant balls covered in lights. A few looked like crystals that someone had carved into the shape of flying machines. Jake had been a ship captain for 15 years, but he had never seen so many alien vessels in one place. His crew moved around the bridge with nervous energy. Everyone knew this meeting would change everything for humans everywhere in the galaxy. The aliens had been talking among themselves for months, and now they were ready to tell Earth what they wanted. Admiral Lisa Bennett spoke to Jake through the communication system from Earth Command. Her voice sounded calm, but Jake knew she was worried. Lisa had been his friend since they went to the Space Academy together 20 years ago. She never let fear show in her voice, even when things looked bad. "Jake, the alien ambassador wants to talk to all of humanity," Lisa said. "They are sending their message on every frequency we use. Every human ship, station, and colony will hear what they have to say." Jake looked at his crew. Lieutenant Dan Rogers sat at the navigation station checking the positions of all the alien ships. Chief Engineer Betty Clark worked at her console, making sure the Liberty could move fast if they needed to escape. Communications Officer Ryan Murphy listened to all the alien radio signals, trying to understand what the different species were saying to each other. The main screen changed, and Jake saw the face of an alien he recognized. Ambassador Zelen belonged to a species called the Zalari. They looked like humans, but their skin was blue and they had 3 eyes instead of 2. The Zalari were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even learned how to make fire. "People of Earth," Ambassador Zelen began, "the Galactic Council has watched your species for 50 years. You have spread across the galaxy faster than any species in known history. You have built colonies on hundreds of worlds. You have created weapons that worry the older civilizations. The Council has decided that humanity must accept our guidance." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had expected something like this, but hearing the words made it real. The Galactic Council was made up of 80 different alien species. Together, they controlled most of the known galaxy. They had technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything humans had created. "The terms are simple," Zelen continued. "Earth must accept full Council oversight of all human activities. You will allow Council inspectors to visit all human colonies. You will submit all new technology to Council approval before you use it. You will limit your expansion to worlds that the Council assigns to you. If you refuse these terms, humanity will be cut off from all galactic trade and communication." The message ended, and the bridge of the Liberty became very quiet. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same thoughts on their faces that were running through his mind. The aliens were basically telling humanity to become their servants or be kicked out of galactic civilization. Dr. Kevin Hayes joined the conversation from his laboratory on Earth. Kevin was the smartest person Jake knew when it came to understanding alien cultures. He had spent his whole life studying how different species thought and acted. "This was always going to happen," Kevin said. "Humans have been expanding too fast for the other species to feel comfortable. We have been building colonies at twice the rate of any other species in the galaxy. Our military technology has been improving faster than theirs. They are scared of us." Commander Amy Foster was monitoring the tactical situation from her station on the Liberty. Amy had served in the human space navy for 12 years, and she understood military strategy better than most people. She was studying the alien ships and trying to figure out what they were planning. "Captain," Amy said, "I count 300 alien ships out there. They have enough firepower to destroy every human settlement in this solar system, but they are not pointing their weapons at us. This is not a military attack. This is political pressure." Jake understood what Amy meant. The aliens could destroy humanity if they wanted to, but they were hoping they would not have to fight. They wanted humans to surrender without a battle. Back on Earth, President Richard Clark was meeting with the Global Defense Council. Richard had been elected president just 2 years ago, and now he faced the biggest decision in human history. The Global Defense Council included representatives from every human colony, research station, and military base in the galaxy. General Paul Carter was explaining the military situation to the council. Paul had been planning for this day since he became head of human space defense 5 years ago. He knew that humanity could not win a direct war against the entire galaxy, but he also knew that humans had advantages the aliens did not understand. The aliens think they know everything about human technology, Paul said. They have seen our ships and our weapons. They have traded with our merchants and talked to our diplomats, but they do not know about our most important secret. Dr. Helen Brooks was listening to the meeting from her hidden laboratory beneath the surface of Mars. Helen was the chief engineer of humanity's most classified project. For 20 years, she had been working on technology that would change everything about how humans traveled through space. The Gateway Network is ready, Helen told the council through a secure communication link. Every major human settlement is connected. We can move people and supplies instantly across hundreds of light years. The aliens have no idea this technology exists. Jake listened to the reports coming in from all over human space. Colony governors, military commanders, and civilian leaders were all asking the same question. Should humanity accept the alien demands or fight for independence? The alien fleet waited patiently outside Earth's solar system. Ambassador Zelen had given humanity 72 hours to make their decision. That was not very much time to choose the future of the entire human species. President Richard Clark sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath Washington. The Global Defense Council had been in session for 18 hours, and the debate was getting more intense with each passing minute. Representatives from every human settlement in the galaxy were connected through quantum communication networks that the aliens could not detect or intercept. The meeting room had a large table surrounded by screens showing the faces of colony governors, military commanders, and civilian leaders from across human space. Governor Linda Martinez spoke from the mining colonies near Alpha Centauri. Admiral Frank Wilson reported from the naval base in the Vega system. Dr. Patricia Brown joined from the research stations orbiting Jupiter. General Paul Carter stood at the front of the room, pointing to a holographic display that showed human settlements throughout the galaxy. Red dots marked colonies that were close to alien space. Blue dots showed settlements that were hidden in unexplored regions. Green dots indicated the locations of the secret gateway stations that connected the human network. We have been preparing for this moment for decades, Paul said. The aliens think they understand human capabilities, but they are wrong. They have seen our regular ships that use jump drive technology similar to their own. They have not seen our gateway network. Dr. Helen Brooks appeared on one of the screens, speaking from her laboratory on Mars. Behind her, technicians worked on massive machines that glowed with strange energy. These machines were the gateway generators that made instant travel possible across vast distances of space. The gateway system uses principles of physics that alien science has not discovered, Helen explained. We can transport people, ships, and cargo instantly between any two connected points. The aliens still need weeks or months to travel between star systems, even with their fastest ships. Senator Carl Adams raised his hand to speak. Carl represented the outer colonies, the human settlements that were farthest from Earth and closest to unexplored space. His people had always been the most independent, and they were also the most likely to be attacked if war broke out. I understand that our technology is better than theirs, Carl said. But we are talking about fighting against 80 different alien civilizations. They have millions of ships and billions of soldiers. Even with our advantages, can we really survive if the entire galaxy becomes our enemy? President Clark nodded. This was the question everyone was thinking about. Human technology was advanced, but human numbers were small compared to the vast populations of the alien species. Earth had only been sending people to other worlds for 50 years. The oldest alien civilizations had been spreading across the galaxy for thousands of years. Commander Tony Walsh joined the discussion from his ship near the edge of human space. Tony led a squadron of scout vessels that explored new star systems and watched alien movements. His ships had been observing the alien fleet that was waiting outside Earth's solar system. The aliens are confident, Tony reported. They believe we will accept their terms because we have no choice. Their ships are not even in battle formation. They think this is just a diplomatic negotiation that will end with human surrender. Dr. Nancy Williams spoke from the civilian research station orbiting Saturn. Nancy studied alien psychology and behavior. She had spent years learning how different species made decisions and what motivated their actions. The Galactic Council, species have never faced a situation like this, Nancy said. In their history, when a young species becomes too powerful, it either joins the Council voluntarily or gets destroyed. They have never dealt with a species that had the technology to simply disappear. Colonel Steve Parker was responsible for coordinating human intelligence operations throughout the galaxy. His agents worked on alien worlds, gathering information and watching for threats. Steve had been planning evacuation procedures for years, hoping they would never be needed. All our people in alien space are ready to withdraw, Steve reported. We have been quietly moving critical personnel and equipment away from areas controlled by Council species. Our intelligence networks can be shut down and evacuated within hours. The debate continued as representatives argued about different options. Some believed humanity should try to negotiate with the aliens, offering to accept some limits on expansion in exchange for continued independence. Others wanted to accept the alien terms temporarily, while secretly building up human military forces for a future rebellion. But the majority of speakers favored the most radical option: complete withdrawal from galactic civilization. This would mean cutting all ties with alien species, abandoning human settlements in Council space, and creating a separate human civilization that existed outside the galactic community. Captain Jake Morrison joined the meeting from his ship, near Earth. Jake had been listening to alien communications, and he had important information about what the Council species were really thinking. The aliens are not just worried about human expansion, Jake said. They are afraid of human independence. They want all species in the galaxy to be part of their system. They cannot allow humans to exist as a separate civilization because it would encourage other species to leave the Council. Admiral Lisa Bennett provided the military assessment from Earth Command. Lisa had been running war games and simulations, trying to understand what would happen if humans chose to fight. A direct military confrontation would be suicide, Lisa said. But we do not need to fight the aliens in the traditional way. Our gateway network allows us to appear and disappear anywhere in the galaxy. We can strike their important targets and retreat before they can respond. We can make it too expensive for them to occupy human space. Dr. Kevin Hayes shared his analysis of alien political structures. Kevin believed that the Galactic Council was not as united as it appeared. Many of the member species had joined because they were forced to, not because they wanted to. Several smaller civilizations have approached us quietly, Kevin revealed. They are interested in trade relationships outside the Council system. If we create a successful independent civilization, other species might choose to join us instead of staying with the Council. President Clark called for a break in the meeting so that representatives could discuss the options with their people. For 6 hours, messages flew back and forth between Earth and every human settlement in the galaxy. Colony governors held emergency votes. Military commanders polled their officers. Civilian leaders organized town meetings where ordinary people could express their opinions. When the Global Defense Council reconvened, the results were clear. Over 70% of humans throughout the galaxy had voted to reject the alien ultimatum. They chose independence over security, freedom over safety. President Clark stood up to address the Council and all of humanity. His words would be remembered for generations as the moment when humans chose their own path among the stars. The people have spoken, Clark said. Humanity will not submit to alien rule. We will withdraw from the Galactic Council and create our own civilization. The Gateway Network will become the foundation of a new human empire that exists beyond the reach of alien control. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Liberty as the 72-hour deadline reached its end. The alien fleet waited in perfect formation outside Earth's solar system, their ships gleaming in the light of distant stars. Ambassador Zelen appeared on the main communication screen, his 3 blue eyes focused intently on Jake's face. Captain Morrison, Zelen said, the Galactic Council awaits humanity's response to our generous offer of guidance and protection. Jake looked at the formal response document that President Clark had transmitted to him just minutes earlier. The words were simple and direct, without any diplomatic language or attempts to soften the message. Jake cleared his throat and began to read. Ambassador Zelen, The people of Earth and all human colonies have considered the Council's proposal. We respectfully decline your offer of oversight. Humanity chooses to remain independent and will continue to govern itself according to its own laws and customs. The alien ambassador's expression did not change, but Jake could see something shift in his three eyes. Perhaps it was surprise or maybe disappointment. The Zalari had probably expected humans to negotiate or ask for better terms. This is unfortunate, Zelen replied. The Council had hoped that humanity would see the wisdom of joining the galactic community under proper guidance. Since you have chosen isolation, all trade agreements between human and Council species are now void. All diplomatic relations are terminated. Human ships will be prohibited from entering Council space. We hope you will reconsider this decision before your species destroys itself. What happened next surprised the alien observers more than anything they had ever witnessed in thousands of years of galactic politics. Instead of panic, desperate negotiations, or military preparations, the human fleet began an immediate and orderly withdrawal. Every human ship in the area received the same coded message simultaneously. Colonel Steve Parker coordinated the massive operation from his command center on Mars. Steve had been planning this moment for 5 years, and every detail had been rehearsed dozens of times. On screens all around him, he watched as human personnel throughout the galaxy began the largest evacuation in history. The operation was called Fortress Protocol, and it had been kept secret from everyone except the highest levels of human government and military. Within the first hour of its activation, human trading posts, research stations, diplomatic missions, and military outposts in Council space began shutting down. Commander Amy Foster monitored the withdrawal from her station aboard the Liberty. Amy watched as human merchant ships loaded with cargo from alien worlds suddenly changed course and headed toward the nearest gateway stations. Diplomatic staff packed their belongings and left alien planets without explanation. Human scientists abandoned research projects they had been working on for years. The aliens expected chaos and confusion, but what they saw was perfect coordination. Every human seemed to know exactly what to do and where to go. There were no arguments, no delays, and no requests for more time. It was as if the entire human species had been practicing for this moment. Dr. Helen Brooks supervised the technical aspects of the withdrawal from her control room on Mars. The gateway network that she had spent 20 years developing was finally being used for its intended purpose. Massive cargo ships carrying millions of tons of equipment and supplies passed through the gateways in seconds, appearing instantly at human colonies thousands of light years away. Governor Linda Martinez reported from the Alpha Centauri colonies as the first waves of evacuees arrived through the gateway system. Her settlements had been preparing for months to receive refugees from Council space. New housing, food distribution centers, and job assignments had all been arranged in advance. The evacuation is proceeding exactly as planned, Linda reported to Colonel Parker. We are receiving approximately 10,000 people per hour through the main gateway. Everyone is being processed quickly and efficiently. Admiral Frank Wilson commanded the naval base in the Vega system, which served as a major collection point for evacuating military personnel. Frank watched as human warships appeared through the gateways, carrying soldiers and equipment from bases throughout alien space. All military assets are being withdrawn successfully, Frank reported. We have retrieved 90% of our personnel and equipment from Council territory. The remaining 10% will be evacuated within the next 6 hours. The speed of the human withdrawal shocked alien observers. Commander Tony Walsh, who had been monitoring alien communications, reported that Council species were struggling to understand what they were seeing. The aliens are confused, Tony said. They expected us to take weeks or months to organize any kind of response. They cannot figure out how we are moving so many people and so much equipment so quickly. What the aliens did not understand was that the gateway network operated on principles of physics that their science had never discovered. While alien ships still used variations of jump drive technology that required them to travel through normal space between jumps, human gateways created instant connections between distant points in space. Dr. Patricia Brown coordinated the evacuation of research personnel from the Jupiter stations. Patricia had been working with alien scientists for 15 years, and many of them had become her friends. She felt sad about leaving, but she understood that humanity had no choice. The alien. Researchers are asking questions, Patricia reported. They want to know why we are leaving so suddenly. They do not understand that this is permanent. They think we are just making a political gesture. Senator Carl Adams spoke to the evacuees from the outer colonies as they arrived at the hidden human settlements in unexplored space. Carl had always known that the outer colonies would be the foundation of humanity's independent future. These settlements were far from alien space and completely unknown to Council species. "Welcome to free space," Carl told the arriving refugees. "Here you will help us build a new human civilization that answers to no one but ourselves." The final phase of the withdrawal was the most dramatic. Dr. Nancy Williams supervised the removal of the gateway stations themselves from areas near alien space. These massive installations could not be left behind because they contained the technology that made the entire network possible. Nancy watched as the gateway stations folded themselves into compact packages that could be transported through other gateways. The aliens would find no trace of the technology that had allowed humans to travel instantly across the galaxy. President Richard Clark addressed the nation from the White House as the evacuation neared completion. Clark knew that this moment would be remembered as either the beginning of a new golden age for humanity or the start of a dark period of isolation and struggle. Today, humanity has chosen freedom over security, independence over comfort, Clark said. We are leaving the galactic community not because we hate our alien neighbors, but because we refuse to be their subjects. We will build our own civilization among the stars, and we will prove that free people can accomplish anything. Captain Jake Morrison received the final reports as the last human ships passed through the gateways. The withdrawal was complete. Millions of humans had been relocated to hidden colonies in unexplored space. Thousands of ships and installations had been moved beyond the reach of alien sensors. The gateway network had been reconfigured to connect only human settlements. As the Liberty prepared to depart, Jake looked one last time at the alien fleet. The Council ships had not moved from their positions. Their commanders were probably still trying to understand what had just happened. They had expected to negotiate with a desperate human government. Instead, they had watched an entire civilization simply vanish from their sight. The Liberty passed through the gateway and emerged in orbit around New Terra, the hidden world that would serve as humanity's new capital. Jake looked down at the planet's surface and saw the lights of cities that alien sensors could never detect. Humanity had not retreated to hide and struggle. They had moved to a place where they could grow and thrive without alien interference. Commander Tony Walsh piloted his scout ship through the Proxima Centauri system, searching for signs of the human colony that intelligence reports claimed had been abandoned 3 months earlier. Tony worked for the Zalari Exploration Corps, and his job was to investigate what had happened to humanity after their dramatic withdrawal from galactic civilization. The Galactic Council had expected Earth to collapse within weeks of being cut off from alien technology and trade. Instead, something unprecedented was happening throughout the galaxy, and Council leaders were demanding answers. Tony's sensors detected the remains of what had clearly been a major human settlement on the 4th planet of the system. There were empty buildings, abandoned mining equipment, and the skeletal frameworks of space stations that had been stripped of all useful components. But as Tony flew closer to investigate, his instruments began giving him readings that made no sense. "This is impossible," Tony muttered to himself as he studied the data. According to his sensors, the planet was completely lifeless and had been abandoned for years. But through his ship's windows, he could see lights in some of the buildings and what looked like vehicles moving on the surface. Tony landed his ship and put on his environmental suit to explore the colony on foot. The moment he stepped outside, his confusion grew even deeper. His sensors insisted that he was alone on a dead world, but his eyes showed him clear evidence of recent human activity. There were fresh footprints in the dust, maintenance work, that had been completed just days earlier, and even the smell of cooking food in the air. Back at Zalari Command, Admiral Keth Zarin reviewed Tony's report with growing concern. Keth had been studying human behavior for 30 years, and he had never encountered anything like this situation. The humans seemed to have developed technology that could make their colonies invisible to alien sensors, while still allowing them to function normally. "Send more investigation teams," Keth ordered his staff. I want every abandoned human settlement checked immediately. Something is very wrong here. Over the following weeks, alien scouts visited dozens of former human colonies throughout Council space. Every investigation team reported the same impossible findings. The colonies appeared to be empty and lifeless according to all sensors and scanning equipment, but direct observation revealed thriving human communities that were completely undetectable to alien technology. Dr. Patricia Brown monitored these alien investigations from her hidden laboratory in the Kepler system. Patricia had helped design the stealth technology that kept human settlements invisible to Council sensors. The system worked by manipulating electromagnetic fields in ways that alien science had not yet discovered. The aliens are getting frustrated, Patricia reported to the other members of the Human Intelligence Network. They know we are still here, but they cannot figure out how we are hiding from their sensors. Captain Maria Santos commanded the secret human listening post that monitored all alien communications in the local region of the galaxy. Maria's job was to track alien political developments and watch for any signs that Council species might be planning military action against humanity. The reports that Maria intercepted painted a picture of growing confusion and concern among alien leaders. Several smaller civilizations were quietly asking their Council representatives about the possibility of establishing separate trade relationships with the humans who had supposedly disappeared. Prime Minister Jason Hughes received these intelligence reports at his office on New Terra, the hidden world that now served as humanity's capital. Jason had been elected to lead the new human government just weeks after the withdrawal from Council space. His job was to guide humanity through the transition from galactic citizenship to complete independence. The aliens are discovering that they need us more than they expected, Jason said during a meeting with his cabinet ministers. Our technology was more advanced than they realized, and our economic contributions were larger than they admitted. Minister of Defense Robert Kane presented the military situation to the cabinet. Robert had been tracking alien ship movements throughout the galaxy, watching for any signs that Council species might try to locate and attack hidden human settlements. The aliens are not preparing for war, Robert reported. They are still trying to understand what happened to us. They expected us to come crawling back within months, begging to be readmitted to galactic civilization. What the aliens were slowly discovering was that human civilization had not collapsed or retreated to Earth. Instead, humanity had created an entirely separate galactic empire that existed in the spaces between the spaces that aliens knew about. The Gateway Network allowed humans to travel instantly between hundreds of hidden worlds that were completely invisible to Council sensors. Dr. Helen Brooks continued to expand the Gateway Network from her engineering centers throughout human space. Helen's teams were building new gateway stations on newly discovered worlds, connecting more and more star systems to the human transportation network. We are growing faster now than we ever did as part of the galactic community, Helen reported to Prime Minister Hughes. Without the restrictions and regulations imposed by the Council, our expansion rate has doubled. The economic reports were equally encouraging. Finance Minister Carol Davis presented data showing that human colonies were thriving without alien trade. The Gateway Network allowed instant transportation of goods and resources between human worlds, creating economic efficiency that alien civilizations could not match. Our productivity per person is now 3 times higher than the galactic average, Carol reported. The elimination of alien bureaucracy and trade restrictions has freed our economy to operate at maximum efficiency. But the most significant development was happening in the research laboratories scattered throughout human space. Without Council oversight and technology restrictions, human scientists were making breakthroughs at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Kevin Hayes coordinated research efforts from the main science facility on New Terra. Kevin's teams were developing new technologies that pushed the boundaries of what alien science considered possible. Advanced artificial intelligence, quantum manipulation devices, and even more sophisticated stealth systems were emerging from human laboratories. We are pulling ahead of alien technology faster than anyone expected, Kevin reported. The Council's restrictions were holding back human scientific development for decades. Meanwhile, the alien investigations continued to produce disturbing results for Council leaders. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a hidden human observation post, watched as alien ships struggled to understand the disappearance of human civilization. The aliens had found abandoned gateway stations, but the technology had been removed, so completely that they could not even determine what the stations had been used for. Star charts and navigation data that humans had provided to the galactic community for decades had mysteriously become corrupted or incomplete. Admiral Lisa Bennett coordinated human intelligence gathering from her command center on Mars. Lisa's agents reported that several council species were experiencing serious problems without human assistance. Trade routes that humans had maintained were becoming dangerous due to pirate attacks. Scientific research projects that had depended on human expertise were failing. The aliens are learning what the galaxy looks like without human innovation and protection, Lisa reported to the human leadership. They controlled 80% of galactic civilization, but they depended on us for far more than they realized. The most dramatic example came when a plague ship from unknown space entered Council territory. The mysterious vessel carried a deadly virus that began spreading through alien populations. In the past, such emergencies had always been handled, with human medical expertise and rapid response capabilities. But this time, human help was not available. The Council species were forced to deal with the crisis using their own slower transportation systems and less advanced medical technology. By the time they contained the plague, it had spread to dozens of worlds and killed millions of aliens. Ambassador Zelen sent desperate messages toward Earth, promising to reconsider the Council's original ultimatum if humans would provide medical assistance. But humanity's response was swift and final. The gateway to the old galactic civilization remained closed, and humans had no interest in returning to a system that had tried to make them servants. As the second year of separation began, it became clear that the galaxy had been permanently changed by humanity's withdrawal. The Council still existed, but it was struggling with problems that human expertise had once easily solved. Meanwhile, human civilization continued to grow and thrive in its hidden corner of the universe, building something new and better than anything that had existed before. Dr. Amanda Phillips watched the emergency broadcasts from Council space with a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. The plague that had started 2 years after humanity's withdrawal was now spreading through 17 different alien star systems, and the Council species were finally admitting that they could not handle the crisis alone. Amanda worked from the medical research facility on Luna, where human scientists had developed treatments for the plague within weeks of detecting it. The virus was similar to diseases that human researchers had encountered before, and their advanced medical technology made creating a cure relatively simple. But the question was not whether humans could help, but whether they should. President Richard Clark convened an emergency session of the Human Council to discuss the alien requests for assistance. Representatives from hundreds of human worlds participated through the quantum communication network, debating whether humanity should break its isolation to help the species that had tried to subjugate them. "They are dying out there," said Senator Elizabeth Moore, who represented the humanitarian faction in human politics. "Whatever our differences with the Council, we cannot just watch millions of innocent people suffer when we have the power to help them." General Paul Carter presented the military perspective from his headquarters on New Terra. Paul had been monitoring alien communications, and he knew that some Council species were blaming humans for the plague, claiming that it was either a biological weapon or a problem that humans should have prevented. "This is not our responsibility," Paul argued. "The Council made their choice when they demanded our submission. They wanted to be independent of human influence, and now they are discovering what that really means." The debate had been raging for 3 days when Ambassador Zelon himself appeared on the main communication screen. The Zalari diplomat looked older and more tired than he had during the original ultimatum 2 years earlier. His 3 blue eyes showed an emotion that humans had never seen from him before: desperation. "President Clark," Zelon began, "I am authorized by the full Galactic Council to offer humanity complete restoration of all previous trade agreements, plus additional concessions, in exchange for immediate medical assistance with the plague." Crisis. President Clark studied the alien ambassador's face carefully. Clark had been expecting this moment since the withdrawal began, but he was still surprised by how quickly the Council's position had changed from demanding submission to offering concessions. "Ambassador Zelon," Clark replied, "I appreciate your offer, but humanity is no longer interested in being part of the galactic community under any terms. We have built our own civilization, and we are quite satisfied with our independence." The alien ambassador's expression showed shock and confusion. In thousands of years of galactic politics, no species had ever voluntarily refused readmission to the Council after being expelled or withdrawn. Admiral Lisa Bennett monitored the conversation from Earth Command while watching tactical displays that showed alien ship movements throughout the galaxy. Lisa had been tracking Council military forces, looking for any signs that they might try to force human assistance or attempt to locate hidden human settlements. "The aliens have ships gathering near our old territory," Lisa reported to President Clark during a private communication, "but they are not in attack formation. They look more like a rescue fleet than an invasion force." Captain Jake Morrison commanded one of the observation posts that watched alien activities from hidden locations throughout the galaxy. Jake had been studying Council behavior for 2 years, and he understood that the current crisis represented a fundamental change in the balance of galactic power. "The plague is just the beginning," Jake reported to Human Intelligence Services. "Without human exploration data and navigation expertise, the aliens are having trouble maintaining their existing trade routes. Several frontier regions are becoming unstable due to pirate attacks and supply shortages." Dr. Helen Brooks continued expanding the Human Gateway Network while monitoring alien attempts to understand human technology. Helen's engineers had detected several alien research teams trying to reverse engineer abandoned human equipment, but their efforts were failing because alien science lacked the theoretical foundation necessary to understand gateway technology. "The aliens are decades away from matching our transportation capabilities," Helen reported to the Human Council. "Even if they somehow acquired our technology, they do not have the scientific knowledge to use it effectively." The reports from human agents throughout the galaxy painted a picture of a galactic council that was slowly falling apart without human participation. Economy Minister Carol Davis presented data showing that galactic trade volume had decreased by 30% since humanity's withdrawal. Several smaller civilizations were struggling with economic problems that they could not solve without human assistance. "The Council is learning that we were not just another member species," Carol explained to the Human Council. "We were the engine that drove innovation, exploration, and economic growth throughout their civilization." But the most significant intelligence came from Dr. Kevin Hayes, who had been monitoring alien political communications. Kevin reported that several Council species were privately questioning whether the original ultimatum to humanity had been a mistake. 3 different alien civilizations have sent secret diplomatic messages asking about the possibility of separate agreements with humanity, Kevin revealed. "They want access to our technology and trade networks without going through the Council." Prime Minister Jason Hughes considered these developments carefully. Jason understood that humanity now held the superior position in galactic politics. But he also knew that this advantage needed to be used wisely. "We have an opportunity to reshape the entire galaxy," Jason told his cabinet ministers. "But we must be careful not to repeat the mistakes that the Council made when they had the power." The crisis reached its peak when the plague spread to Zalari Prime, the homeworld of Ambassador Zalan's species. The Zalari were one of the oldest and most respected civilizations in the galaxy, and their potential extinction sent shockwaves throughout Council space. Ambassador Zalan made one final desperate plea to humanity, broadcasting on all frequencies that humans might be monitoring. His message was no longer diplomatic or formal. It was the cry of a species facing annihilation. "People of Earth," Zalan said, "I helped make the decision to demand your submission 2 years ago. I believed that humanity needed guidance and control. I was wrong. We all were wrong. We did not understand that you were not a threat to be contained, but a blessing to be treasured." President Clark watched this broadcast from the Oval Office on Earth, surrounded by his closest advisors. The moment had come to make the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. "The gateway remains closed," Clark said finally, "not because we hate them, but because we have learned that some relationships cannot be rebuilt once trust is broken. They wanted us to submit to their authority because they feared our independence. Now they can see what the galaxy looks like without our contributions." Dr. Amanda Phillips received authorization to release the plague cure to human medical teams throughout the galaxy, but with specific instructions. The cure would be distributed to any species that requested it, but only through independent channels. Humanity would help the suffering, but they would not restore diplomatic relations with the Council. Years passed and the galaxy slowly adapted to the new reality. The Galactic Council continued to exist, but it was a shadow of its former power. Human civilization expanded into regions of space that aliens could not reach, building an empire based on freedom, innovation, and mutual cooperation, rather than forced conformity. Captain Jake Morrison, now an admiral in the Human Space Navy, often looked at the reports from Council space and remembered the day when aliens had demanded humanity's submission. They had pushed too hard, and now they lived in a galaxy where human ingenuity and protection were no longer available to solve their problems. The gateway to the old galactic civilization remained permanently closed, but humanity had opened new gateways to a future that they would build on their own terms.